What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV and an action-packed stream for you guys today as we're going to go through the nitty-gritty of the AZ Alkmaar win last night, and then it's going to lead into the Crystal Palace game that we're going to be previewing Sunday 2 o'clock kickoff. But yeah, it was a bit of a night last night. I don't think it was the greatest performance, but everyone's just talking about it. And Mikey Moore, what a performance last night.
Talk of the town, Mikey Moore, yesterday. He's been, Twitter been going absolutely, well, X has been going absolutely crazy for him. Even rival fans are sitting up and taking notice of Mikey Moore yesterday. Yeah, it was a real kind of breakout game for him. Some people say it was his Bale versus Maicon moment. I don't know if I'd go that far. But it was a sight to behold, him in full flight, especially at the beginning of that second half. And definitely got a lot of Spurs fans excited. Ange said after the game he wanted to keep a lid on things. He didn't want it to go over the top, but you know, after Maddison compared him to Neymar, he just couldn't help it. So he said there's cats out of the bag now, he said, so might as well talk about it. He said he was planning on coming out after the game and playing down his performance, and then he heard what Maddison said, so now he's got no choice. So yeah, brilliant day for him, brilliant day for Spurs fans. Let's just hope that's a start of many performances like that.
Yeah, let's hope
First
so.
of many, yeah.
In terms of the game yesterday, 9 changes made by Ange Postecoglou. A lot of fans were taking to social media worried Fraser Forster was playing and the amount of changes that we made. An important game, try to keep up that 100% record in the Europa League. And Fraser, for one, didn't disappoint. I thought Fraser had a really strong game yesterday. I thought everything thrown his way, he dealt with really well. A couple of really quality moments in there from him as well. So you got to give Fraser Forster credit after responding, you know, because he came in against Coventry. He was poor, albeit he did make a few saves in that game, but I think he did himself some justice yesterday. He
did all right. I thought he made some good saves at important times, especially there was one-on-one in the second half, which he had to be big, and the strike was just straight at him. There was one moment in the first half where he had to come out quick off his line, and he dived at the feet of the striker and did well to prevent that from turning into a moment. And then obviously he's had made a save from a header from a corner, which I think personally Vicario probably saves more comfortably than Forster did, albeit it's not the easiest save in the world, but it's not right in the corner. I didn't think there was that much power on it, and he makes it look like a world-class save. But actually, I think when you look at the replay, wasn't that good. I did think as well his passing was okay at times, but there was a couple of moments where he didn't look so comfortable. His passes to Bentancur sometimes were, you know, not the best technique, a bit bobbly, led to Bentancur having to rush some of his passes because of the passing from Forster. So look, I don't want to criticise him because I thought he had a good game and I thought he made some big saves, but I don't think I saw anything to suggest to me that, you know, I haven't changed my feelings on him just because of that game, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's no really feelings to change. I mean, but you know, he's stepped in and did a good job. I mean, that's all that needs to be said about it. But in terms of the 9 changes made and Spurs getting over the line with the 3 points, it was impressive, wasn't it? Because it wasn't the most unbelievable display that we've put in this season. It's clear to see as that. But when you make so many changes, it's a credit and a testament to Ange Postecoglou to make so many changes and to get those 3 points.
And that's the most important thing. And to come out of these Europa League games and to come out of yesterday is the fact that not only are we making 9 changes from the weekend, from obviously which is our most settled team, we're having 3 teenagers start the game as well. We have a teenager, obviously, Odegaard, who came off the bench as well to have significant minutes. And not only are we making 9 changes, not only are we starting 3 teenagers, but we're also winning the game. And the 3 teenagers are having playing a significant role on the pitch in that victory. And I think that just goes to show the level of quality that these players are at and the level of talent we have in this squad, because it's not easy. That's not an easy thing to do in Europe, to start a young team like that. And not only to get by with it, but also to win with it and to get 3 wins in a row. Bergvall started 3 games. Archie Gray has started 3 games. Mikey Moore started 2 games. And I think that goes to show the quality we have in our coming through our team, which is so impressive. And also the fact that we made those 9 changes and we got the victory as well is so positive, because obviously a big criticism of Spurs in recent years is the fact that we've heavily relied on certain players. and we haven't been able to rest certain players. And now the fact that we can make 9 changes in the Europa League game and get a victory and not feel it too much is so important, because that's what we're going to need going forward. We're going to need them to step in at some moments. We're going to need to give our best players a rest at some moments. And the fact that we're able to do that and still get victories is fantastic, because in years gone by, when we've rotated too heavily, it's cost us a lot of the time. And so the fact we can do it at the moment anyway, we seem to be able to make a lot of changes and get wins, is really, really important.
Yeah, and you're talking about big players stepping up for the team, and you go back to what you were saying just now about, past years in the Europa League when we would make a lot of changes, it would look terrible and drop points, would lose the game, get draws, whatever it may be, against lesser opposition. And maybe the few senior players that would play wouldn't step up for the team, and they think that this competition is a bit below them. You look at the senior players that were on the pitch yesterday, James Maddison, Rodrigo Bentancur, or them two specifically. James Maddison had the captain's armband on and just showed loads of traits of leadership. But not only that, he was dominating the game in the first half, where chances were maybe few and far between and we weren't at our fluid best. He was the one really taking that game by the scruff of the neck, being really hard to handle. 3 men around him, no problem. He would wriggle his way out of those situations, and he was really showing those leadership traits in terms of the penalty situation as well.
Yeah, and I thought he really stepped up for the team yesterday, and I thought as a captain, I thought he really led by example. He was the one who looked probably the sharpest. He looked the most intense in that first half. I thought the way he was weaving in and out of players when they were trying to press him, and he just attacked the space ruthlessly with his incredible agility, was fantastic to see. And I think that really set the tone for a lot of other players. Yes, it wasn't the most great team performance. Maybe it was a bit disjointed, but I thought Maddison himself was absolutely phenomenal for much of the game. And I thought if anything was going to happen in terms of moment of magic, it was going to be James Maddison providing it. And really unlucky probably not to get a goal or assist last night. Obviously, he gave the penalty up to Richarlison, which goes to show his character and his leadership skills as well. But it was his run that made the penalty, wasn't it? And that was a few times. He was not just getting the ball to feet and taking players on, but also running in behind and getting behind the defence. And those are really important things, because you've got to kind of keep the opposition guessing. You can't keep doing the same thing. I think that's exactly what he did yesterday. He was looking at different avenues of attack. I read a stat just before, he had more touches in the penalty area than any other player in game week 3 game week 3 in the Europa League. So that goes to show what an impact he made in the game.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And I think I've said it as well. Like, it wasn't a vintage display. I don't think it was a great team performance. But what I did think is that a lot of individuals actually played a really good game yesterday. When you're looking at Maddison, the way Bentancur recovered in that second half, I thought he was absolutely brilliant in that second half. Rodrigo Bentancur. I thought Radu Dragusin, from his defensive capabilities, put in a top display last night. And then obviously Mikey Moore as well, in his second half display was incredible. Destiny and Doggy, I thought, was incredible throughout the game. So, I mean, these kind of players were the ones that really dragged us through this game.
And I think I said that before the game, like, that's probably what's more important in these games. Yes, we want a great team performance, don't get me wrong, and that's what Ange is aiming towards. But in these games, when you're making lots of changes, I think what is more important for the time being is getting the level of performance from the likes of Gray, Bergvall, Mikey Moore, these kind of Richarlison, coming back from injury. I think the most important thing right now is to get their level of performance to a certain standard, so that they can just be interchangeable in the squad, and they can come in and perform at a certain level. So as much as it wasn't a great team performance, it was maybe a bit disjointed, I think there was a lot of good individual displays. And first of all, once everyone starts performing well individually, the team performances would improve. But I think that's super important, so that when we have injuries, for example, to bigger players, and we have to use these guys in Premier League, or if there's just a lot of Premier League games, for example, in December coming up in quick succession, we're going to need to rotate in big games. These guys are going to be more ready to step in and just be interchangeable within the squad. So I think that is a very important thing right now. And I hope, look, because I think, to be honest, when it comes to, let's say, the latter stages of Europa League, the knockouts, I don't think we're going to be making 9 changes.
Nah, definitely not.
So I think the fact that I don't think it's that important in Europa League right now that we make 9 changes, that it's not the best team performance, as much as that's where you're aiming towards. And of course, that's what Ange is going to be aiming to kind of produce as a manager, to get good team performances. I don't think at this point in the early stages of the group stage, it's as important than getting all these players up to speed individually. And that's what I think maybe we're focusing on.
Yeah. If you look at the momentum bar and the progress bar from last night, I mean, as much as it wasn't a great performance, it was still a pretty dominant performance, wasn't it? And I felt like, AZ Alkmaar kind of did have a few chances, maybe capitalising on some poor playing out the back from Tottenham. But for the most part, we did have, a lion's share of the possession. We were asking the majority of the questions, and they didn't trouble us too much, did they?
Yeah, I mean, they had a few chances, which we know, as we said a million times with Spurs, that's the risk we take with the way we play. And we always leave spaces at the back, and they did nearly punish us. That Poku down the left-hand side, he was a bright spark for them. Archie Gray was having a tough time with him. He was pacey. He was energetic. They did have, obviously, that chance from a corner, which Forster had to save. They had a one-on-one when Davis makes a mistake near the end of the game, which Forster has to step up. Apart from those couple of moments, those are probably the best chances they had. Apart from that, I felt like we were really troubled. I did think Dragoshin defensively was very dominant. I think anything that came his way, he was gobbling up from his point of view. So I thought he did a really good job on that front, very proactive with his defending. I think we penned them in very well. I think maybe at times we struggled to really create clear-cut chances against them, but obviously we had more of the ball and we were creating more chances in general. And the more you do that, the more likely you are to break the deadlock, which we did with the penalty. So, yeah, as much as it wasn't wasn't the best performance, you got to remember we are playing a good team in AZ Alkmaar. They're in Europe for a reason. They're currently 5th in a decent league like the Eredivisie. And when you're making 9 changes, it's always going to be very difficult. And the fact that we can do that, have a fairly dominant performance and grab a win and a clean sheet, I think goes to show some of the talent we do have in this squad. Yeah,
and Rodrigo Bentancur, a lot of people were complaining about his first half performance, and quite rightly so. He did seem a bit passive. His passing wasn't up to scratch, but something kind of changed in that second half for him, where, I don't know, Ange must have got in his ear or something saying, you're one of the senior players, you need to step it up for the team. And he very much did that.
Yeah, I don't think he was terrible first half, but he didn't have that intensity. He didn't seem to be sharp in that first half. He got nutmegged once in that first half as well, and he didn't seem to be kind of playing with the same intensity which he can when he's at his best. In the second half, I think he came out with a bit of intent, and I think that definitely changed his approach. He was a lot more aggressive when it came to the pressing, and I think he was giving a lot better protection for the back line. Look, I don't think we were too exposed anyway in the first half, and I don't think he was like letting us down or leaving us open, but I don't think he was... I think there was a lack of intensity, I think is the right word, in his play in that first half. And I think he upped his game definitely in the second half, and we benefited from it. So I thought in the first half, on the ball, he was okay. I thought off the ball, he just lacked that bit of bite, And then second half, you just saw he was being a lot more aggressive, and that helped us.
Who really impressed me yesterday as well, another player who I actually didn't mention when we were talking about the players stepping it up for the team, was Lucas Bergvall. I felt like in the games that he started, this was his best performance in the Spurs shirt to date. And that ball was just incredible to die for, outside of the boot, just taking out their whole defence in one ball pretty much. But it wasn't just that. I think he was a constant threat throughout, Lucas Bergvall. And for a player of 18 years of age, obviously you're talking about Mikey Moore, 17, Archie Gray, 18 as well. For Mikey Moore, obviously wasn't really involved in the game too much in the first half, and I think he was struggling out on that right-hand side. But Bergvall, from first half down to the second half, I thought he put in a really strong display.
Yeah, and I was really happy with him. I think to be fair, I think I've been pretty happy with him so far this season, by and large. I think as an 18-year-old coming to a new league, new expectations with him, it's always going to be tough. But I actually think he's adapted fairly well. I actually don't think he's put in a stinker in any game, and I think by and large he's been pretty positive. But yeah, I thought yesterday was his best performance. I thought he really was influencing the game a lot in that centre of the park. Obviously, Maddison was pulling the strings a bit more, and maybe Bergvall went under the radar a bit. But I actually think he was quite good at just keeping the ball ticking over, and I thought some of his passing was exceptional. I thought, as you said, that ball to Werner to play him through on goal was inch perfect timing of the pass and inch perfect execution as well, from a very difficult position in the centre of the park to pull off an outside of the boot pass like he did was phenomenal to see. Obviously won the penalty as well when he's kind of helping out. He's following in on Maddison's touch after Maddison runs in behind. He's about to shoot and then he gets brought down, which was a terrible challenge from Decker. So I think that was a good piece of play from him. And he had a bit of bite in him as well. Made quite a few tackles. I think won 4 of his 7 duels, 3 tackles. So I thought he had a pretty solid game actually, Lucas Bergvall. And look, it's easy as much as we got high expectations because of the talent we can clearly see he has. You've got to remember he's 18, he's very young, and there's always going to be an adaptation period. He's only played in the Swedish league, and this is a big step up. So I've been delighted with him so far, to be honest. I think he looks really exciting.
Yeah, the other 18-year-old Archie Gray, I did feel like he got given a really hard time by Poku out on that right-hand side, our right-hand side, their left. He did get beaten quite a few times on that side. But I think for the most part, he did handle himself pretty well throughout.
I think Poku clearly was their danger man for most of the game, and he was taking them on a lot. But how much did they actually create from that side? I think he got, to be fair, I did think there was a couple of times he got beaten and then Radu or Bentancur had to come over and cover. So I think, I wouldn't say he got away with it, but, there were some times he was struggling. But I think by and large, he looked comfortable. Maybe not as composed as I've seen him in other games, where he's just super confident to try things and play the ball forward. Didn't see that much of it in this game from him, but I still think it was a solid all-round performance. And look, again, an 18-year-old. I know he's played well in the Championship last season, and he played a right-back a lot for Leeds last season. But again, new environment. He's a young player playing first time at the top level. And I still think he's acquitted himself pretty well. And if that, that's probably one of his weaker displays in the Spurs shirt so far. And I still think he put a really good base level display. So pretty happy with him as well.
It just felt like we were watching something special last night with Mikey Moore, didn't it, in that second half? Because we were saying, it's likely that Mikey could... We saw that Brennan was getting readied at half-time, and we thought, it's likely that Mikey Moore could go off. I was hoping and praying that it was going to be Werner to go off and not Moore, and obviously that's what came to pass. But Mikey, as soon as that second half started, you could see he wanted the ball. He was confident. He wanted to take on his man. He wanted to make stuff happen. There was at one point, Maddison was just kept beating him because he was just in the mood. Like something just kind of flipped in him in that second half. And the amount of times he was taking on his man, I mean, in the first opening 10 minutes of that second half, he must have taken on his man and successfully about 6 or 7 times. It was incredible. That fullback must be having nightmares about him from what he performed, getting absolutely destroyed by a 17-year-old consistently in those opening 20 minutes.
He got taken off, I think.
Yeah, and he got taken off as well of the second half. And it just felt like a bit of an announcement game, if you know what I mean, because he had a good performance at Ferencváros, but this was a completely new level.
Yeah, there were shades of it in Ferencváros of what he can do dribbling-wise. Obviously, if you take your mind back to that game, first minute he takes someone on, gets fouled, and there are a couple of times where he was doing some really good stuff on the right-hand side, and I think he set up the chance for the opening goal for Sarr to score, and so there were inklings of what he's capable of, away at a difficult side like Ferencváros. But I thought he really announced himself yesterday with those opening 20 minutes of the second half. It was absolutely sensational. It was untouchable. I mean, you could watch a top winger put in that kind of performance. If so, you could say some of the top wingers in the Premier League, and if they're putting in that kind of performance, you say, oh, they're in the mood today. They're looking good today. What a performance they're putting in today. And this is a 17-year-old kid who's doing that against a very good side like AZ. And it's not easy for a 17-year-old to be capable of that level of performance at such a young age, at such a high level. And yet he comes in, and he's not just beating one player or two players. There were some moves he was beating three or four players. And not only that, a couple of times he had the quality at the end of it to match, which is even more impressive, or just as impressive as his dribbling ability. Clearly, this guy has, for his age, unbelievable upper body strength to able to get away from players. Or not only does he have good speed, which I think a lot of it is not to do. Obviously, he's fast. I don't think he's maybe as fast as someone like, maybe obviously he's only 17 and maybe it'll happen. I don't think he's as fast as say let's say someone like Brennan. But what he does is he manipulates the opposition to get them off balance, and then as soon as they're off balance, he attacks that space ruthlessly, and that's really, really an impressive trait. You don't actually have to be the fastest player to be a good dribbler.
He's fast up here, though. That's
exactly.
The thing.
There are some really amazing dribblers. Look at Maddison, brilliant dribbler. He's not the fastest. You don't have to be to beat your man. It's all about balance and manipulating your opponent, and he's clearly quite good at doing that. And he was catching him off balance a number of times. But I think what was just as impressive was the moments after that came the dribbles. There was that moment where he dribbles past 3 players and then plays an inch perfect Travella through ball to Brennan Johnson through on goal, right into his path. Now, actually, Brennan didn't have to break stride, but I actually think Brennan screwed that up because he waited way too long to shoot. Brennan could have easily got a shot on target at that moment. If Brennan wasn't just waiting for it to come, I think if he just went towards the ball, he could get a shot on target, maybe even a goal there. And I think Brennan kind of screwed that chance up. And then there was a moment where he again takes on 3 players, gets to the byline on his left foot this time, flashes it across the face of goal. And I don't know, I wouldn't say it was Brennan's fault, but Brennan's usually there at the back post to tap it in, and he wasn't on that occasion. So brilliant quality that Mikey Moore has as well as his incredible dribbling ability, which as for a 17-year-old to perform like that kind of level is astonishing. It really is astonishing. And on that evidence, we really got a star in our hands, star in the making. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and even when he wasn't playing that well on the right-hand side in the first half, he still put in a couple of really nice crosses into the box, didn't he? And he seems as though, like, you're looking at our wingers right now. I mean, I can't. I mean, I know Werner put in an unbelievable cross for Moore in the opening minutes of the game, and Moore probably should have finished that with the header. But on a consistent basis, from what we've seen from Mikey Moore in the game against Ferencváros and the game here, I mean, his crossing looks incredible.
Yeah, he's got great delivery, and there was another moment. You're right, because another moment where he beat a player, cut inside and drifted it to the far post.
Yeah.
And it just went over Richarlison's head, and Bergvall just missed it as well, which shows he doesn't have to just drill it. He's also got a good lofted cross as well to that back post, which was so close to being on the money for 2 Spurs players there. So he's got a great delivery. So he looks like he's got. What doesn't he have? And he's only going to get better because he's 17. So, he's still so young. He's got still so much learning to do. It is important, as Ange said, you want to keep his feet on the ground. Being where he is now for a kid his age is obviously incredible, but it's only the start of the journey. He can't feel like, he's made it yet. He's got to still, do this week in, week out. He's got to perform consistently. He's got to keep getting better. He's got to grow into his body a bit more, You can see he's still got a bit of growing to do. So, as much as he's very strong for a boy his age. So obviously it's important to not go overboard and keep his feet on the ground, but it's hard not to when you see him performing like that, because it's just, you don't see 17-year-olds every day performing like that at this level, and it's really, really amazing.
It's just incredible, like the skill set he has at this age. He can go inside, he can go outside. He's playing against fully grown men that have been playing week in, week out in men's football. It's just mad to see, and I'm as much as I've been banging on about Mikey Moore for so long, I didn't think like he would announce himself this quickly in this season. It's just mad to think about. And Timo Werner goes off. Surely Mikey is ahead of him in the pecking order now. Surely.
Yeah, you think so? I would say so. Obviously, Ange was talking this press conference today, and he said, in regards to him playing on Sunday, that he said he's ready to start, but he said it's more about the only real problem, the only real. Not concerned, but he's the only thing he needs to consider is him physically. Him overworking and playing 2 games a week. He's just got to watch out for that. So I think Ange clearly feels like he's got no problem starting him at the moment. When you're playing like that in Europa League, you've only got to look at some players in the past who've earned their chances in Europa League and then gone on to play in the Premier League. And I think look at Harry Kane when he was performing in Europa League, and we just couldn't ignore him. In fact, we did ignore him for a few weeks, and then just got to the stage he just kept getting like hat trick after hat trick. Like, okay, we can't ignore him anymore.
Yeah.
You got to start playing him. And then obviously, look, he never looked back. I'm not saying Moore is Kane level, but it's getting to that stage where he's playing so well in Europa. Like, we just can't ignore that. Ignore him at the moment. I do wonder whether he'll start on Sunday, but obviously we'll get into that. But I mean, I can't think of a better opportunity, to be honest.
It's a really good opportunity. And when you're talking about you don't want to overplay these youngsters, I mean, when you're talking about overplaying him, he's only going to be playing because Sonny can't play, right? So if Sonny comes back in, you're still kind of keeping his feet on the ground. Give him that taste of Premier League action on the weekend, and then bring Sonny back into the team when he's fit for the next game against Man City, probably. But the guy, I just can't stop thinking about Mikey Moore and his performance last night. I thought it was that good. I was kind of blown away from it, as much as I've been, banging on about him for a while. But
you reckon Thomas Tuchel was keeping an eye?
Definitely. And he's going to be in the World Cup squad in a couple of years' time. But you're talking about keeping his feet on the ground. James Maddison literally came out and called him Neymar after the game.
Exactly. So maybe not the wisest thing. I remember Pochettino when he compared Marcus Edwards to Messi. He did kind of say it was a mistake to do that a couple of years after maybe it got to his head, or I don't know what happened with Edwards at Spurs, but there was problems between him and the management staff, and never really got the opportunities to really get into the first team. I don't know if it was an attitude problem or what.
That's what was spoken about.
So I think maybe we shouldn't go too overboard. You don't want it to get to his head. You don't want him to think, oh, I'm the best player, I should be starting every week kind of thing, because he's got to remember he's got a lot of developing to do. So I think that is an important thing. But yeah, it's hard to not get excited when you're seeing him play at that kind of level.
Yeah, but it also depends on the mentality of the player. And when you're talking about, when you hear anyone talking about him, like, they all just talk about his mentality first and foremost. Like, he's always looking to improve. He's willing to be a sponge and take in all that information around him, using inspiration from all the players. And he just feels like the mentality on the boy just seems to be top notch, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what Ange said. He said, even though he heard what Maddis said, he doesn't think it will affect Mikey Moore, because that's how he approaches things, and he's taken everything in his stride. So let's hope he continues in that way.
Yeah. But all in all, really good night last night. Everyone's talking about Mikey, but we did win a game of football yesterday, and that leaves it to 100% record in the Europa League, which puts us in an extremely commanding position. We're one of only 3 teams that have completed the 3 wins out of 3. Lazio top, we're second, and Anderlecht third, with Galatasaray coming up next, which is probably going to be our hardest game. If we can get through Galatasaray without a defeat, surely that's top 8 done and dusted, if it's not already. Pretty
much. I think for top 24, you're looking at probably another win, probably another point even. I'll probably even say, even if we lose every other game, we'll probably have a good chance of making it anyway. So I would say top 24, we're pretty certain now with those 3 wins. Yeah, and as you say, if we can go get a draw at Galatasaray, I think, 2 wins probably 100% secures top 8. You might even do it with less, I would say. There's probably a chance you do it with less. But I think, obviously, if you get 15 points, that's the benchmark, I think, to get there. I think I read on Opta, they said if you get... if you get 15 points, they say you've got a 45% chance of getting top 8. If you get 16, it goes to about 50% chance of getting top 8. So we've put ourselves in a very good position. We've got, obviously, Elfsborg at home to come.
Yeah, that's the last game.
That's obviously the last game, but that's always... that's a game where you're thinking, that's a guaranteed. But to be fair, the other games, Rangers, Hoffenheim, Galatasaray and Roma, none of those are easy games. I don't know if we can make 9 changes in any of those games and win, to be honest. So that's going to have to. So we're going to have to see where we can rotate in those games. But if we can go to Galatasaray and just get the win or get a draw, that'll go a long way to just sealing that top 8 spot.
How'd you like to see us navigate that Galatasaray game? Do you want to see us go really strong in that game, or only a couple of changes? How do you think we would play it?
What's our schedule around there?
Well, Galatasaray is the week after Man City. So we got Palace this weekend. We got Man City midweek.
And Villa at home.
Then Galatasaray.
Then we got Ipswich at home after Galatasaray on the Sunday, and then after that international break. So, look, obviously Villa is a very important game. I expect us to play a full-strength team, but I guess Galatasaray, I guess it's going to have to be fairly full strength, to be honest. I don't think we're going to be making 9 changes. I think we're going to have to make some changes, but I'm thinking like
you got the changes, don't you? That don't decrease the quality. Like you've got a Basuma for a Bentancur, so one
like
of
that.
them will play.
I wonder if, say, for example, on an occasion like this, do you say play Porro and Udogie and maybe play Spence against Ipswich if he's fit, for example? Do we do that? Do you maybe even play, one of Maddison and Decky in that game and then play a Bergvall on the Sunday? I think, you might think you're better off making a few more changes against Ipswich rather than Galatasaray just to get the win. That might be the case.
Yeah. All right, well, that is the match review from the 1-0 win against AZ Alkmaar yesterday. 100% record in the group. And let's move on to the player ratings, starting off with Fraser Forster. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. And I was really impressed with him. A lot of people were, coming into it, including myself, were like, why is Fraser Forster playing? We saw his performance at Coventry. It was nowhere near good enough. But, look, I think he did everything right. Everything that came his way, I think he dealt with good quality. There was even one time which I was really impressed with. The cross came in and he just gobbles it out of the air with like one hand, a bit Pat Jennings-esque, as someone said on the watch along yesterday. But he made some good saves. Nothing got past him. Kept a clean sheet. So I'm going to give him his props.
Yeah, I think he did well. I think made some good saves. Definitely the big save was from the one-on-one from Lang, but he did hit it straight at him. I think the one save from the corner, which there was a header. I thought obviously it was a diving one-handed save, but I think you watch it back, I don't know if it should have been as difficult if it was for him to save it. I thought his passing out the back was okay. I thought it was sometimes a bit rushed and not great technique, but most of the time it was pretty accurate, so I don't have too much to complain about. There was one moment where he came out of his goal, running off his line, and actually did quite well because it prevented a chance from RZ. So I think by and large, good. Didn't cost us. I think did his job well. But yeah, I don't know. I still watch him and still a bit worried about him, to be honest, even after that performance.
Yeah. Obviously, you feel a lot more comfortable with Vicario in goal, but for what he is, I think he had a really good display last night. Let's move over to left back Destiny Udogie. 8s all round for Destiny, and I thought he had a super dominant game on that left-hand side. Nothing got past him throughout the day. He was so physical, winning his duels, interceptions, blocks. I mean, everything. I thought from a defensive aspect, I thought he was near perfect last night. Going forward, maybe he could have got involved a little bit more, but still a really good display from Destiny. I was very impressed with him. And he was one of the ones that just kept his standards throughout that 90 minutes.
Yeah, and the stats, I think, speak for itself. If you want to get the stats up, or they've got
2 interceptions, 2 tackles, 6 out of his 7 duels won.
2 out of his 2 dribbles.
1 out of his 1 aerial duels. I mean, everything was absolutely top notch from him.
Yeah, I think defensively, fantastic. As you can see on his heat map, he actually didn't get into the final third too much. He was a lot playing in the middle and at the back, but I think he did his job exceptionally well. And I think Destiny's been playing well. Everyone looks back at, everyone takes that game against Brighton and they kind of extrapolated that for him having a poor season for some reason. And I don't know why a lot of people are getting on his back. I know maybe at times at the beginning he was struggling late in games after he came back from his injury. But I think since he's become near to fully match fit, apart from the Brighton game, I think he's been really, really great. And I think he's really getting back to his best. And I thought this was another example. Obviously, it does beg the question, played 90 minutes in this game. What do we do on Sunday? I'm pretty sure he will start, but maybe it's a case of, will there be a pre-planned sub with Spence or something like that? I guess we'll wait and see. But I thought he played really well, and I thought he had their right winger on lock.
Let's move on to Ben Davis. I think he got the captain's armband in the second half. 6s all round for Benny. I felt like there were a few scary moments in there from Davis while playing out the back where RZ sprang on us a little bit, but I thought for the most part he dealt with it pretty well. So yeah, a few scary moments, not the greatest display, but did well.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, I don't think he was particularly fantastic, to be honest. There was one moment which I think came from his mistake when he kind of was very weak in the challenge, allows Troy Parrott to kind of win a duel, and then Troy Parrott was able to play a through ball to Lang, which obviously created the one-on-one. So I do think that chance was from a Ben Davis error, which he should have done a lot better with. But having said that, I think in possession he was all right. I think he did okay overall. I just, he makes you nervous sometimes when he has to use his strength or his height, because those are the two things he lacks, I would say.
Yeah. Radu Dragusin up next. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. From purely a defensive standpoint, he was brilliant. The amount of chances that he snuffed out from AZ Alkmaar yesterday was to the highest degree, highest quality. But where I kind of marked him down a little bit was his on-the-ball display. I felt like he was just playing our midfield and our team into trouble quite a few times. And he just doesn't look totally comfortable when playing out the back and when he's on the ball.
Yeah, I think obviously we ask a lot of our centre-backs how they kind of operate on the ball. There's a big gap between them sometimes and some of the midfield players or attackers. And Dragoshin's definitely still getting used to that. And obviously he got caught against Karabag. He actually got caught in this game. Was it the first half? He got caught, and I think it was the second half, and Bentancur had to bail him out on that occasion as well. So clearly there are still some moments where he's just struggling to adapt to on the ball. I also think technically his passing sometimes a bit bobbly, sometimes it's behind the player and it's not crisp. And when you see Romero passing the ball in between the lines, and it sets us up on attacks, Dragoshin hasn't got that level yet, albeit still young, still got a lot to learn. Doesn't mean he can't get there, but at the moment he's not quite there yet. So on the ball, not great. I did think in this game he was a lot better with his proactive defending. I actually thought he bullied Parrott for a lot of that game, and whenever RZ went long and whenever they were aiming for Parrott, he just gobbled that up. He was just winning those aerial duels night and day. And I actually thought in those moments, in those proactive moments when he was like winning those duels, he was actually winning it in a sense of not just to win it to clear out the pitch, he was winning it and winning possession back, either take it down or getting it to a teammate. So that was really, really good, and that was kind of a lot more like how Romero does that role off the ball anyway. Much more proactive and much more about getting ahead of the attacker, and that's a big role, because the more you do that and the more you just win possession back, that just helps you dominate the whole game more. And I think that was really good. So I'm going to give him props for that, because I thought his proactive defending was a lot better on this occasion.
Archie Gray up next. 6 is around for Archie, playing at right back. I thought he got given a pretty torrid time for quite a lot of it from Poku down their left-hand side, and that's where the majority of their threats were coming from throughout the game. And Archie, I think he struggled to deal with it at times, but I think for the most part, apart from those few moments where they did get in on the left-hand side or our right-hand side, I think he dealt with things well, but it wasn't as silky on the ball than it has been for him maybe in the other performances that we've seen from him.
Yeah, I think he was inverting a lot. I mean, if you look at his heat map, you can see he was, from what I can see, he was pretty much playing as a midfielder, pretty much when you look at the heat map, because he's very rarely in that right-back slot, maybe because obviously we had a lot of the ball, but I think it wasn't his best game. I don't think he was as composed in possession as we've seen. I don't think it was that bad defensively. I think Poku was giving him a tough time, but look, I don't think he got absolutely roasted or anything. I don't think they created too much in terms of when they were trying to beat him on that side. I think Dragoshin and Bentancur were helping him out, but I think in general it was okay. I think in general he dealt with it fairly well. But yeah, there were some moments where Poku was looking very dangerous. But I think in general he was pretty decent. Mm-hmm.
Moving on to Lucas Bergvall. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. I thought he was brilliant. Best performance in a Spurs shirt so far. He was creative. Lovely passing ability on show, particularly that one for Timo Werner in the first half, where Timo has got to be doing better in that situation. And also off the ball, I thought he had a lot of bite in the challenge. He was getting around the pitch and really imposing himself. So I was really impressed with Bergvall yesterday.
Yeah, I was really happy with him. I thought really great display, and it shows both sides of his game. It shows what quality he's got on the ball with that beautiful through ball to Timo Werner. Obviously, a good awareness with the winning of the penalty, helping out Maddison with that run in behind. And also, as you say, has that a bit of aggression as well, has that a bit of bite, which you're going to need if you're playing central midfield, especially if you're playing next to Maddison, I know Maddison does work hard, but you're going to need that little bit of aggression to compensate, because you got your next to an attacking midfielder instead of a defensive midfielder. I think he has that, so really promising display. Obviously, he looked like he was going off a bit injured, but Ange at the end of the game was a bit of cramp, so thankfully nothing to worry about, hopefully. And I was really, really happy with him, and I've been really happy with him ever since he's come. I think he's getting better and better. and I think we've got a real talent here.
James Maddison up next. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 9. Our man of the match on the day, I thought he was brilliant. Led by example, captain's ability, captain's performance. Off the ball, I thought he was brilliant, winning his duels time and time again. The amount of times he won the ball back in the middle of the park, I thought was exceptional. And not only that, on the ball, when it looked like he had no right to advance up the pitch, he was doing it on a consistent basis. I mean, how many times did he wriggle past when he had 2 or 3 men around him? I lost count of how many times it actually was. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. He was involved in, at times it looked like in the first half, he was doing it all on his own. His attacking play where he was the one that was really grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck. So, and obviously he had the penalty situation as well, where he showed really good leadership ability, where, you know, stamped his authority on Richarlison, saying, I'm the penalty taker, I'm the captain, I'm going to take this penalty. But then he also realised that Richarlison, coming back from injury in a space where he's been many a time before James Maddison, he gave the penalty to Richarlison, where Richarlison obviously duly delivered and put it in the back of the net. So I thought it was a good all-round display from James Maddison yesterday.
Yeah, I think he really stepped up, and I think especially in the first half, he was the only one looking to play with that intensity, looking to play with that little bit of sharpness and spark, which I think some of the other players maybe were lacking yesterday. It looked like whenever he got on the ball, he was looking to make something happen. He didn't want to allow possession to pass him by, and when he saw space, he drove into it, and the AZ players just couldn't handle him. The way he was wriggling out of those tight situations was incredible to watch. It was like a magician, just like with a box of tricks at moments to wriggle out of those situations, and AZ just kept fouling him. They couldn't handle it. He completed 4 of his 7 dribbles. It showed how many times he was being effective in those situations. And yeah, obviously the whole penalty situation. First of all, the penalty comes about from his run from deep. Brilliant run, which he was doing all game. A couple of times he was getting in behind and causing them problems. Not only was he getting the ball to feet, but was also making those runs, clever runs in behind, and getting joy out of it with being found as well. And so his run set up Bergvall to win the penalty. And as you say, brilliant piece of leadership to let Richarlison take the penalty and get his goal scoring run underway. Sorry, his goal scoring this season underway, because it's very important for him to get that first goal. And yeah, I thought he led by example, and I thought he was a fantastic. I'll give him man of the match as well. I thought it was a fantastic display from him.
Rodrigo Bentancur up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. I was quite frustrated with him in the first half. I thought he could be doing more, particularly with one of the more senior players on the pitch, but I felt like he did that in the second half, and he really stepped up for the team, became one of our most important players in that second half. He was dynamic, he was aggressive in the middle of the park, and he did lack that aggression in the first half, but he really did step up for the team for the second half, where I really marked him up on. So he was winning his duels, getting himself about the pitch. If you look at his heat map, just shows you how dominating he actually was in that middle of the park. And yeah, I mean, if he puts in the second half display for the 90 minutes, he probably would have got a 9 from me. But yeah, poor-ish in the first half, but then massively important for us in the second.
Yeah, and I think second half as well, he had to bail out Gray, and he had to bail out Dragoshin on a couple of occasions. So if it wasn't for him, it could have been a lot worse. And I absolutely agree. I thought second half he just upped his aggression a bit. He was just getting involved in a few more duels, making sure that when we're pressing, he was reading the game a lot better. I thought first half was just maybe a bit passive. I thought on the ball he was decent, but I thought off the ball, a bit passive, wasn't offering that much protection, but you just saw he upped that aggression in the second half, he upped that intensity, and we were much better for it. So good display overall from Rodrigo. Yeah,
there was a few times where he got a bit cooked in the first half as well.
Got nutmegged a couple of times.
Nutmegged twice, but definitely put it right in the second half, that's for sure. Mikey Moore, the star boy, up next. 8s all round for Mikey. Unbelievable performance from the 17-year-old yesterday. Was a bit out of sorts in the first half, where he wasn't getting himself too involved, but still showed a few moments of quality with some good crossing in the box. Probably should have scored in the first 5 minutes of the game, where Werner puts it on a plate for him, and he just nods the header wide. But the second half, he moved over to the left-hand side when Werner got taken off, and he just dominated that side. It was unbelievable to see from a 17-year-old kid. The amount of take-ons that he did, they just couldn't handle him. That was the reality. They just could not handle him out on that left-hand side, and he was just showing quality time and time again. And from a 17-year-old kid to do that on the European stage, I think is a joy to behold, to watch. And it was a bit of an eye-opening moment for Mikey Moore, for opposition fans maybe to sit up and notice and take notice of what this guy can actually produce. So I'm so excited to see what he can produce moving forward now. I've been excited for him for a while, and it just confirms in my mind what a special talent we have on our hands.
Yeah, and the fact as well that first half, he to be fair, he wasn't getting so much joy. He wasn't looking that confident. Like, I don't remember too many dribble attempts he had in that first half. He looked like he was always trying to check back. One thing I actually thought he was doing quite well in the first half, to be fair to him, was he would pick the ball up on the right-hand side, and if he didn't dribble, he would look for that little pass on the underlap into space in the penalty area. And he actually got a bit of joy there. And that was probably one of the areas we were getting beyond the RZ backline. It was those little passes from Mikey Moore into those little pockets of space just on the right-hand side of the touchline there. So that was pretty good, but I think in general struggled to really impact the game properly. Obviously had that massive chance where Werner crossed it to the back post and his header was skewed wide. He'll be very disappointed he didn't get that on target, at least, because it was a free header at the back post on a plate, so it wasn't great on there. But given that he didn't have the best of first halves, he didn't let it affect him, did he? He didn't get his head down. He didn't sulk and he wasn't like, it's not my day today, because he moved over to the left in the second half, and said after the game he looks a lot more comfortable on the left, and you can see why, because maybe it's because the different angles he has and the different types of runs he makes. Instead of always going on the outside, he can weave in and out in different directions. And when he moved over to the left-hand side, he was pretty much unplayable. They didn't know how to deal with him. He was just creating chance after chance, dribble after dribble. He had that one moment where he dribbled past three players and then plays a outside of the boot through ball to Brennan. He then has one moment where he dribbled past one player, cuts back on his right foot this time, and just curls it to the back post, and it's inches away from Richarlison and inches away from Bergvall. Beautiful dribble and pass as well. Another moment where this time he goes to the byline using his left foot across the face of goal, and just no one there to tap it home. He then cuts inside and has a shot. I mean, it led to their fullback being hauled off because he couldn't handle him. It wasn't a surprise, to be honest. As soon as they brought a fresher fullback on, then all of a sudden it died down a bit for Mikey Moore, because they got a fullback on who had fresh legs. But in those first 20 minutes, he was just unplayable. He was absolutely delightful to watch. It was so exciting, and you obviously you can hear because you didn't have the headphones on, but every time they passed out to him, you could hear the crowd getting up, the crowd getting excited. It was almost like they were passing out wide to David Gindler or something. It was just absolutely mad, and that's what, not only were the crowd reacting like that, he was playing like that at the time. So phenomenal performance.
With the attributes that this guy has, I mean, this is exactly what Ange wants from a winger, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
That's perfect, Ange Winger. The kind of stuff he was doing yesterday is exactly... And, like, what I loved about it was he was doing different things, going to the byline, cutting inside, dribbling past
variation,
a variation of chance creation. And, like, it's like you didn't know which way to stop him. He seems to be two-footed as well. Left foot, he was creating a chance. Right foot, creating a chance. Both ways he can go, it seems. So, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Richarlison up next, sixes all round for Rishi. First start in a while for Richarlison, and I felt like it showed, to be honest, in his game. He's struggled to get into the game for the most part when he was on the pitch, I think, for an hour. Did get his goal, obviously, which was great, which was a present from James Maddison, giving him the penalty in that situation. But I felt for the most part he pretty much struggled to get into the game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think sometimes a striker in an Ange system can go that way, where they're just not the focal point. It's all about them facilitating some of the other players, and it's not uncommon for strikers in the Ange system to have some of the least touches on the pitch. So what doesn't surprise me too much, he wasn't that involved. The only thing is, when he was getting involved, he did look quite rusty. I think it's fair to say his touch wasn't quite there. When he got into positions to shoot, they were a bit weak. They did lack a bit of conviction. But there were some positive moments. Obviously, he was still working hard, and he did do some really good high pressing to set up Timo Werner for one of his chances in the first half, and obviously stuck his penalty away pretty confidently down the middle, waited for the keeper to move, and just stuck it. The keeper went the wrong way and stuck it into the net. So that's good. Hopefully that goal can really get his confidence flowing, and when he gets back on the pitch, hopefully he can be a bit sharper. But you could probably tell it was his first game in a while, because he just looked a bit rusty, to be honest.
Yeah. And the last of the starting 11, Timo Werner. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. He did actually, he obviously only lasted 45 minutes, but I did think he did a couple of nice things. What you know about Timo Werner is he's got the pace and he can arrive in the really good threatening areas on the pitch for Spurs, but it's what happens after that, and it's just not good enough. We need better quality to really polish teams off, because he goes one-on-one with the keeper with a lovely through ball from Lucas Bergvall, and it was pretty much just like a pass back and like straight into the keeper's not going to have an easier shot to deal with for the rest of his career. Literally. So it's really poor. He did put a cross on the money for Mikey Moore in the first couple of minutes, and I actually thought he was the one out of the front three getting the most involved in that first half, and I was happy to see him go off because we just needed more quality. But yeah, I mean, he's just such a frustrating player to watch, and we're just saying that every time we're watching him play.
Yeah, unfortunately, those two chances was symptomatic of what we can clearly see what was going on with Werner at the moment. That's a man who's very low on confidence, and he's struggling to have self-belief when he gets in those positions that he's going to stick it in the back of the net. I don't know whether when he gets in those positions, it's almost as if like he's already seeing the headlines and already seeing the miscompilations run through his mind, because he just hits them so weakly. It's almost as if he's not focused on putting it in the net. He's focused on just getting on target or something, because at the moment his finishing is just so weak and it's so feeble. I did think he was giving them trouble, to be fair, and as you say, he put a brilliant ball for Mikey Moore, could have had an assist on the day, so it wasn't all bad. But unfortunately, at the moment, we are creating chances for him. That's one of the frustrating things. He's getting opportunities, he's making good runs, to be fair to him, but we are putting chances on a plate for him, and unfortunately they're going to waste because every time he keeps missing. And I was of the opinion if you just keep giving the chances, eventually they'll start to click for him. But I'm just starting to doubt that at the moment, because it's just not happening for him. And with every miss, the problem for him at the moment is with each miss he has, you see his confidence drop even more, and it's just like a cycle. Each miss he has, it drops more, and then you want to give him another chance so that he can rectify it, and then he just keeps missing these chances, and it's not helping anyone. Ange said after the game, he wants to put the arm around his shoulder, but at the end of the day, we just need players to be making an impact in those phases of the game, and he's struggling to do that. So as much as I feel for him, when you got Mikey Moore making an impact like he was yesterday, it's hard to justify him being in the team.
Yeah, you can really see from his body language and the way he kind of reacts to missing these chances, he's clearly feeling sorry for himself. And I think that's why Ange took him off yesterday. What I liken it to, I think it's very similar to when we had Roberto Soldado. Like, Soldado kept missing these chances, but he kept arriving in the good areas. And Soldado, what would Soldado do? He would do everything great in the build-up play, and everything was really good from his actual gameplay. But when he got into those money-making moments, into those goal chances, he would just scuff his lines every time. And I think that's what Werner's doing. And you also saw a Soldado back in those days feeling sorry for himself. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the substitutes. Brennan Johnson came on at half-time for Timo Werner. 6 all round for Brennan. It was a bit of an up and down from Brennan, to be honest. I felt like he was getting in good positions and good threatening situations, but he just fluffed his lines a couple of times, Brennan, maybe delaying the shot, which delayed it a bit too much, where the chance was kind of gone. But what he did do, I felt like he gave us really good balance in the forward line when we had Brennan on the right side, Mikey Moore, and then Richarlison up top, and Dom Solanke a bit later. But wasn't the best performance from Brennan, let's say that.
Yeah, he had a couple of really good openings, which he should have done better with. The one which Mikey Moore set him up for, which he delayed the shot way too long and it was blocked. There was also a moment where he was played through on goal. I think it was from Decky, and he had Richarlison to his left, and he had a lot of time in the box to maybe even line up a shot if he wanted. And he goes early for Richarlison, but the keeper just reads it and intercepts it, even though it was kind of a 2-on-1. So, I mean, if that was Werner in that position, we're probably giving him pelters. So, yeah. Probably have to criticise him. I did think he looked a bit more confident, even in those positions, though, than Werner, even if he lacked a bit of composure. I thought he made a bit of a difference on the right-hand side, even though he didn't quite have the end product. But I still think he did okay. But yeah, those couple of big openings he should have done better with. So yeah, he gets marked down for it.
Dom Solanke coming on with 25 minutes to go. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. He came on and just added a bit more than what Richarlison was showing in the game. And I think he had about 2 key passes on the day, and what I saw with Dom Solanke, he was just involved in the nice patterns of play and the build-up play that we were showing in the latter stages of the game. Obviously, none of them led to a goal, but we did have a couple of chances, and I felt like he was in the thick of the action.
Yeah, well, I think what epitomised his cameo was that moment in the corner where he's holding the ball. He then just bullies his way past the defender and then creates a chance for Dejan Kulusevski, whose shot, I think, when just wide or it was saved from the keeper. And I think that's the difference between Solanke. That's what I love about Solanke. I feel like with Richarlison, like when he takes a bad touch or he he gets himself into a 50-50 duel and he comes out second best. It's almost like when Richarlison loses a duel, like that duel is over. But I think it's different with Solanke. When he gets beaten to the ball, that duel ain't over because he'll keep going at you, he'll keep snapping at you. He's relentless, and it's like if you're going to win that ball off him, you're going to have to win it off him. Even if you get the ball, you still haven't got it off him because he can come back at you and he can bully you even then. I feel like it's different with Richarlison. Like once you've won the ball off him, like that duel is over and you've won the ball off him.
He just adds so much more than Richie, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's just maybe I'm. Maybe it's the optimistic guy in me thinking this, but maybe Rishi can look at what Solanke does and learn a lot of him and maybe he can become a better player for it. Because in a way, Rishi last season, didn't have anything to compare it to with because he had Son there. You didn't really have someone who showed him what amazing hold-up play can look like. But now you've got Solanke, who is like elite at that. You can clearly see when it gets to his chest, he can trap the ball. When it comes into feet, that first touch is close to him. It doesn't get away from him like it does with Richie. He battles for those duels. And maybe if Solanke can get Richarlison up to speed and get 2 strikers on the same wavelength, it'll be great. But yeah, Solanke I thought had a decent cameo, set up a chance, and looked good.
Yeah, the narrative when we signed Solanke from a lot of people were like, yeah, we've got a good number 9 coming in, but the levels between him and Richarlison are fairly similar. There's not too much difference in terms of quality-wise. I mean, how wrong was everyone? Because I felt like he's a complete new level above.
Yeah, I think in front of goal, I think there's a point there. I don't think there's actually a massive difference in front of goal between Richarlison and Solanke, and I think we've seen that so far. But I think where the difference comes is their overall gameplay. It's night and day. Like, Solanke is one of the best I've seen, to be honest, in the Premier League so far this season in that overall play. Not ever. All right, I'm not going over. In the Premier League this season, he's one of the best I've seen when it comes to that overall hold-up play. Like, I can't think of too many players who are as effective as him. Whereas Richarlison, on his day, he can be decent, but like on his day, like his best hold-up play is probably as good as for what I've seen when Solanke's having a bad day kind of thing. So that's just the difference.
Yeah. Dejan Kulusevski came on again with about 15 minutes to go. 6s all round for Decky. I felt like he came on, added something. He wasn't involved too much, but when he was involved, he showed some signs of quality, had a chance on goal that the keeper was equal to. But nice short cameo from Decky, not too much in it.
Yeah, I think he just helped see out the game. I think he showed his quality, was hang on to the ball really effectively. Yeah, don't have too much to say. Probably could have done better with his goal, with his shot, because there was a couple of options to pass it to, and decided to take on his left foot instead, which I think probably turned out to be the wrong option. But I thought it was a decent cameo from him.
And last but not least, Pape Matar Sarr, 6s all round. And Sarr and Decky, they came on, didn't they, when AZ were probably having their best moment in the game. And what these guys did, they came on and just gave us that bit more legs in midfield and helped stem the tide and help us bring the momentum back in our favour. So, I mean, there wasn't too much on there from on the ball from Pape, but I think off the ball, he provided a few legs for us in the midfield. So that was helpful for us.
Yeah, I think he provided legs. I think he actually did some really good defensive work when he came on and provided some really good running and, eats up the ground so good, earning free kicks and just making sure that RZ, weren't able to get a foothold back in the game. So good stuff.
And Ange Postecoglou, Sim gives him an 8, I gave him a 7, trusting in the youth with Mikey Moore, Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray and reaping the benefits for it, making 9 changes in the game. Yes, it was not our most fluid display and our most attacking display of the season, but we got the job done, and that was the main thing. 3 points, 100% in the Europa League, where in the last 2 games we've heavily changed the team, and you've got players, and he's helping the the kind of senior players keep that motivation in this competition when the team is massively changed, which is something to be said, because a lot of managers have come in and not been able to do that. So Ange Postecoglou's managing the squad really well, getting over the line in games. I think 7 wins in our last 8 games. The form is really starting to show for Tottenham Hotspur. So yeah, brilliant management from Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, as you say, 9 changes, but 3 wins out of 3, another clean sheet in the Europa League as well. And the fact that we're getting wins even when we're starting with 3 teenagers and we're making 9 changes is very, very impressive. I think he's managing the squad well. He's doing well to make these changes and get wins, because we're keeping players fresh for the Premier League as well, and that's also a very, very important thing to do. So I think he's managing the squad really effectively, and wasn't the best performance, as we said. We've seen better performances from Spurs, but we're playing against a good team. It's not, you can never take for granted that you're just going to win these games. And we got over the line, fairly comfortably. So fair play to Ange.
All right, so that is the player ratings. We got a couple of super chats to get into. Boss Geese says, only a fresh Son. Spurs beat City. Injury is fake.
Injury is fake. He's lying. He's keeping him on ice for the City game. He's not letting Pep know his tricks. That's what's happening.
Rinkadink Sports Agenda, big up Rinkadink, says, hi bingo buddies. Got lucky when Van Bommel got injured. That's a good point, actually. I don't know if we got lucky, but he's obviously been a big player for AZ Alkmaar this season. And look, let's be real, their biggest threat did come on. I mean, Poku came on for Bommel, didn't he?
No, Cassius came on and Poku went over to the left.
Right, but the player that went into his position still gave us a lot of problems down that side.
He did. And that Cassius looked decent anyway. But yeah, look, Van Bommel's been really good for them. I think he's got 4 goals and 2 assists so far this season. So bit of luck with the injury that happened to him early on. I don't know how much it would have changed, but yeah, bit of luck there.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go and see how the internet did react to the game yesterday. First up, is that the first one? Can you refresh? Or do I need to refresh? Yeah, there we go. First one from Spurs Army saying, Vicario giving his best audition to replace Ange Postecoglou as head coach. This was brilliant yesterday, actually. He was giving players instructions as they were coming on yesterday.
Assistant manager Vicario, is that what we're saying? He joins the leadership group and he thinks he's a manager. Is that what's happening with Big Vic?
It seems as though. I like it as well.
I like that authority, but also, is he just taking it upon himself to be giving out instructions?
The way he's sitting there is like such a man. Look at him. It's
he's like he's Pep Guardiola on the sidelines there.
Brilliant from Big Vic. 1 week in the leadership group, and that's what happens.
Do you reckon maybe he feels like, because he's on the bench with Fraser Forster, taking that spot, maybe he feels like still need to be involved somehow. I feel like I should be out there. I'm part of the leadership group. Mickey's like, man, Mickey has to face him like, just shut up. I don't want to be listening to this. That's what Mickey looks like. He's like, there's a moment of, look at this. There's this video here. Is it which one is it? Am I looking at? You can see Mickey. Is it this one here? No, not this one. There's one where the 17-second one. He's like, no, the one before this, I think. You can see here Mickey's pointing like, what's this guy doing here? Look, this one. It's the top right one. If you go off this one here, look. Go to the beginning.
He's talking to the player liaison guy.
He's like, what the hell's Vic doing? What is he doing? Tell this guy to shut up. He's not the manager. That's what he's doing.
When you're at the game and you've just got some guy just standing next to you, just won't shut up. This is what it was like.
No, Mickey's like, can you tell him to shut up? That's what it looks like he's doing. He's like, tell him to be quiet. Shut up.
Brilliant.
I love that.
Michael Hamilton next up with some fire emojis, giving us a picture of Mikey Moore. But that must be like in the under 9s or under 10s or something.
Hell.
Look at that.
One of our own.
Interlude Sonny saying, I'm so moved. Thank you for changing my life. I'm literally 17-year-old Mikey Moore.
You changed all our lives, Mikey.
He really did.
It's fair to say, after that performance.
This next one is from Shambest, South Korean, says, Madison fell over and got a bruise. Are you cute, Vicario?
This is Vicario again. Look, I think I wonder what Vicario's doing, because he's clearly looking at the big screen, isn't he? And he's like, must be looking at a replay of something. Oh, I think maybe was it when we should have had a penalty potentially?
Maybe.
We didn't get one, and he's looking at it thinking, that's a penalty, no, or something. I don't know. Big Vic. Big Vic was just involved yesterday. He's involved.
Ethan says, out with the old, in with the new.
Moresi,
exactly. Lionel Moore. Annie says, Maddison doing captain things, and this is the moment where, it looks for all to see that Maddison is about to put the ball on the spot, then he turns around and just goes, here, Richarlison, you're up.
Yeah, he's about to take it. Where's the moment he decided? Here you go. You just see the moment you can see it in his face. You can see there's a moment he's like, I'm going to take this, and he's like, oh, I should give it to Rishi, shouldn't I? There's a moment
he didn't look happy about it. He didn't want to give it to him. He kind of
puts his head down. He's like, oh, I should really give it to him. You can see it, and then fair play to him, because Richie, you can see, wasn't expecting it, but there you go.
Spurs tweeted out this last night saying, Maestro, match stats, 97 passes, 5 duels won, 13 ball recoveries from Rodrigo Bentancur yesterday.
Yeah, and much a better second half, wasn't it, from him? So, look, I think, again, another player who's quietly having a pretty good season. I don't think he's getting as many plaudits as he should, because I know Brighton, it wasn't the best game and whatnot. But I actually think most games he's been on the pitch, he's looking really good and looking more confident. So I'm pretty happy with him at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have 2 sixes in the form that they're in with Bissouma and Bentancur. Long may it continue. Minnie van der Ven tweeted out this image of Bissouma having Richarlison in a headlock after the game, him thanking Maddison as well, just pointing to Maddison saying, this is the guy.
They still bully him like a little brother, don't they, Richarlison, even though he's probably similar age to them. Love that. He's just that kind of character, Richarlison, where you want to do that. Brilliant.
And here's another one of these tweets. Every single week we seem to be bringing this meme up.
I don't know who this guy is. But
liking every more praise tweet I see.
And you wait till you scroll down. You'll see that's literally what we've done.
Minnie as well saying 07, 97, 06. And obviously these were the years that these players were born in. Richarlison, Bergvall and Mikey Moore yesterday.
Yeah, I love that. And if you see when we scroll down, Mikey Moore and Bergvall really starting a real bromance, aren't they, as well? So it's really great to see.
Mari tweeting out saying, Mickey!
Go on, Mickey.
Just giving a nice little wave to the fans yesterday.
I can understand the excitement to see Mickey.
Yeah, of course. Mr. Alex THFC says, Mikey Moore is ready. I always knew he was, but you had clowns on here saying he's only 17. He's just a kid still. The lad is ready. If Werner gets subbed on for Son over Mikey Moore again, I will lose my shit. Fantastic second half appearance. He's going to be special. He's already special.
Come on. He looks like such a talent, and yeah. I mean, it is creating a narrative, though, like if Werner plays another minute, everyone's going to be like, Mikey Moore, he should be playing Mikey Moore.
Definitely.
But, yeah, I'm sure maybe, I don't know if Werner's played his last minute for Tottenham yet, so I have to wait and see.
Coy's comps, Mikey Moore after being moved to left wing yesterday. Air of Gareth Bale last night.
Taxi for the RZ right now, for sure.
Alice Talks Football says, can see why Spurs fans are buzzing over Mikey Moore. The kid is mint, so talented and confident. The way at 17 he demands the ball, shows players where to place it. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely right, isn't it? Because when he started to gather that confidence yesterday in the second half, he was trying to dictate everything, wasn't he? Like, he really was like going, Maddison, you got to pass it there, you got to pass it there, feed me.
Yeah, he was demanding the ball, wasn't he? And that's so great to see for a 17-year-old, on that stage to be confident. And they just kept feeding him, and he just kept doing things as well. So I think it was all just brilliant.
Axel THFC with the Zidane meme saying Mikey Moore. Whoa.
Come on, what a meme.
And that's what all Spurs fans were like yesterday.
Exactly, 100%.
Digital Spurs saying Mikey Moore, checking possible him decision. He is him.
He is definitely him, 100% VAR check. I don't know, did it need a VAR check?
No.
I don't know if it needed one.
Didn't.
It's shocking from the ref. Why has that gone to the screen? How has that gone to the screen? Clear and obvious. Clear and obvious how.
George Sessions says Mikey Moore just walked into the academy part of the Spurs training ground, common practice for first team players aged 21 and under, and was asked by the lovely reception lady how last night went, and he goes, yeah, it was all right, thanks. Moore said modestly, wise head, young shoulders.
Amazing. And that's exactly the mentality a lot of people say he has. Always keeps his feet on the ground. So sounds like he's not going too overboard about last night. He's probably upset he didn't get a goal or an assist, isn't he?
I mean, I think it'd be so hard. Imagine you're a 17-year-old kid and you've just had the performance that you've had for the Spurs first team. Like, how do you keep your feet on the ground? Like, he must be in the clouds at the moment.
Don't know. As I said, maybe his mentality is I didn't get a goal and assist. Like, I'm not happy.
It takes a special mentality of someone of 17 years old to be like that.
100%.
Kane from the lane says, already seen people comparing Mikey Moore to Lamine Yamal, which is crazy. It's very easy to get carried away with the excitement, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Yes, he's an extremely talented and exciting young player, but there's no way he's as good as Mikey Moore.
Brilliant. That had me until the end. Absolutely brilliant.
I was about to lay into this guy. I was literally just getting all the cusses ready. I was about to lay into him.
Fantastic.
Spurs Express saying Mikey Moore on Instagram tweeted out or put on Instagram him coming off with a little hug from Ange Postecoglou with a white heart there yesterday.
Brilliant. And of course he uses the white heart. He knows. He's a year.
Coys through and through.
Exactly. Fully coys.
Stop That Football tweeted out saying stop that Mikey Moore.
Yeah, and this was an absolute joke. I mean, oh my God. I mean, to dribble past like three players and then play the inch-perfect pass to Johnson as well. It's just to die for. Yeah. Absolutely to die for.
Simon Yamini says, my captain, and that was obviously Maddison going over to hug Richarlison after gifting him that penalty and him putting it away.
Beautiful moment last night, and hopefully that changes things for him. We saw, I don't want to bring up Arsenal now, but we saw last season how that, Havertz getting that penalty did give him a bit of a confidence boost, didn't it? So maybe that can do the same for Rishi.
Kissy says, puppy friendship forever, and this is Bergvall and Mikey Moore after the game, and as soon as Mikey Moore came off the pitch as well, Bergvall was there on the bench to greet him, and maybe there's a little bromance brewing here.
Definitely, and maybe joining the first team at the same time and stuff like that. They seem to be getting on a lot, so look, they're the future of Spurs and maybe they know it.
And this is the moment next that I was actually just talking about, when Mikey Moore comes off the pitch and Bergvall and Porro just, giving him a little hug, rubbing his head as well. Lovely stuff.
Yeah, he knows how well he did. So really, really great. Fantastic stuff.
That's the same one down there. Mikey Moore quote retweet saying, one of our own, you voted Mikey Moore as last night's player of the match. And he quote retweets it and says, thank you, with white heart emojis.
No, thank you, Mikey.
Thank you, Mikey. We've been through that one. Let's go to counter pressers. Mikey Moore is a generational talent. I do not want to be hyperbolic, but these mechanisms are very similar to that of a young Lionel Messi.
Oh, he's not hyperbolic.
I don't want to be hyperbolic, but this guy is the next GOAT. Nimble turning radius, optimization of momentum, ball striking, lofted in-swinging cross. To show this level of maturity on a European stage is freakish. He is an alien.
Absolutely. And he's one of our own. Unbelievable.
Nathan Clark says that feels like maybe that's kind of it for Timo Werner's Spurs career. It did kind of feel like that a little bit
yesterday, to be honest. It did kind of feel like that because he was just down. It's the same thing that we've seen 100 times, him missing those chances. And, the fact that Mikey Moore took his chance like he did on the left-hand side yesterday, the fact that Brennan's in great form, Odegaard, we didn't even mention Odegaard in our match review. He looked good when he came on. Sonny's still Sonny. It's going to be, it's going to be difficult to justify Werner playing too many games when these other players are available, to be honest.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Sam Cornish tweets out saying, Glastonbury. Galatasaray booked. Who's coming? Well, we're coming.
Come on, we're coming to Istanbul.
Looking forward to that in a couple of weeks. But a small matter of Crystal Palace away and Manchester City at home. And also, who's the game? Villa at home just before we play Galatasaray. So action-packed couple of weeks of football over the next few weeks. So very much looking forward to it. But that is the way the internet did react to the AZ Alkmaar game yesterday. I guess it's time to look forward to Crystal Palace now, isn't it?
It is. And... Palace away, winless in their first 8 games. Ollie Glasner under pressure coming into this game as well. It's what the thing is. These kind of games, though, as much as they're winless in 8, and we obviously we should be winning this game. We're going to come into this game favourites. It's these kind of games we always drop points in. It's these kind of games you got to be careful about, because these are the kind of games where teams can catch you off guard. And I actually am a bit worried about this game, to be honest, in a weird way, because the way Palace are set up, if they are going to continue in that back three system, which they have been for the majority of the season, it's the kind of system which we struggle against. And also the fact that they've not won a game, are they going to be a bit of a wounded animal? Are they going to be difficult to play against? Are they going to come out with a bit extra motivation? I think it's like one of two things I'm thinking in my mind, because I actually think, if we were playing Palace, the same Palace as we were at the back end of last season, I'm actually not sure if we win this game, because I think the way they're set up, those three very narrow forward players, they've got three very strong centre-backs as well, strong, fast. They're very wide with the wing-backs. Two very good ball-playing defensive midfielders with the likes of Wharton there, and I don't know if Decore's I think he's maybe out for a while, but, Eze's buzzing around and things like that. If they were in good form, I'd be very worried about this game. But in a weird way, the fact that they haven't won, the fact they haven't won means obviously they're going to be desperate to win, and they're going to have that extra bit of motivation to get that win. But the fact they haven't won in a weird way means a draw is not a great result for them in a way. And the fact that a draw is not a great result, obviously it's a positive result in the grand scheme in the grand scheme of things. But a draw in this game, it keeps that winless run going, and it means that's 9 games without a win. And it means if they lose that next game, that's all of a sudden that's 10 games, and all of a sudden that draw hasn't helped them at all. So I think the fact that they haven't won means they kind of do need to win this game, and that could play into our favour in a way, the fact they need to win.
The thing is, I don't know if it's a must-win for them, this game, because obviously, when you play a top 5 team, when you're at Crystal Palace, is not a must-win game, regardless of the situation. I think if you're looking at the games for Crystal Palace coming after this, when they go to Wolves away, and they host Fulham at home, and these kind of games, if they get a draw here, and then kind of take momentum out of that and go and win the next 2 games, then all of a sudden it's looking really good for them. Not really good, but a lot better.
I just think when you're a team like Palace, when you finish the season like you did last season, and you're on the run that you are on now, kind of every game is a must-win in a way, because the more games you don't win, the pressure keeps piling on and piling on. The longer you go without that win, the more the pressure builds. If they don't win on Sunday, even if they draw, I don't think that it maybe relieves the pressure a tiny bit, but not much. If the only thing that relieves the pressure is if they win games, and I don't think the narrative, if they get a draw on Sunday is, it's a good draw, they got battle for a draw. I think the narrative is that's 9 games out of win, and the pressure builds.
Maybe the narrative around the media and the fan base, I think I would agree with that. But if you look at the bigger picture, and if they can beat the teams,
they drew away at Chelsea, It didn't help them. The pressure kept building.
No, it didn't help them. Yeah, of course. They got to respond to that draw, and they didn't respond in that moment in time. But if they got Wolves next, Wolves away. Let's say they don't win against Spurs. It's 2 teams that are going winless so far in this Premier League season. That game is massive for both teams. So if they can get a draw in this game and then go and beat Wolves, then suddenly they will be drifting up the table a little bit.
Yeah, of course. But let's say if they draw against Spurs, then draw against Wolves, then the pressure's massive.
Of course, but it's how they respond to getting a point against Tottenham.
If they beat Spurs and then draw against Wolves, that's still a good couple of weeks. So that's what I'm saying. They kind of need that win to really relieve the pressure, because even if they don't if they don't win this game, he could be gone if they don't win that Wolves game.
What I'm saying is he'll be judged a lot more on that Wolves game than he will on this Tottenham game.
I think he's going to be judged big on this game, because they're 8 games out of win. So every game he's being judged on now. When you're on this kind of run, they could be playing Man City. I think he's getting judged on it because they're 8 games out of win. Yeah,
you're always going to get judged on every performance, but that Wolves game is a lot more to judge when it's 2 out of form teams, where both those teams shouldn't really be where they are right now. Both of these teams have the quality to be 5 or 6 places above where they are. Both these managers are going to get heavily judged on that Wolves game, where this Tottenham game, if you ask 20 people, 19 of them will probably say, yeah, this is a nailed-on Tottenham win.
I think we need a Palace fan to tell us, because I just feel like...
No, I get what you're saying, and you're right to a certain extent. You're right in saying that, he is going to get judged on this game, and if they lose, it's not good enough because of the narrative of the season so far. But if you look at it from the bigger picture, when Tottenham come to a team like Palace, like we've got a very good record at Palace, no matter what kind of form they're coming into the game. So it's hard to judge on that specific game. It's hard to judge when you're facing a top 5 or top 6 team. You're looking at Palace's results this season. Their 2 best performances of the season have come against the bigger teams. They narrowly lost to Liverpool 1-0, and they took a 1-1 against Chelsea. So there is something in it.
That's why I'm worried
game.
about this game, because they are a good team. Whatever people want to say and whatever form they're on, they got very good players. I look at their back three: Lacroix, Guehi, who's the other? Chalapa. 3 very good players on the ball. 3 very tall centre backs. 3 very physical centre backs. That's tough to break down. They've got wing backs. Munoz, Mitchell, fast. They can play out wide. They can attack space. In the middle they got Wharton there. I don't know if he's fit, but they got, Wharton's a very good ball player, very strong. They got Eze, who's, I know, people have been clowning on him because he's taken the most shots out scoring, but I actually think he's actually playing quite well. Things aren't just going in his favour. I watched him against Forest. I thought he was head and shoulders the best Palace player for sure, and he was very unlucky not to get on the score sheet. It was only the keepers who made some worldy saves, and he scored a brilliant goal away at Chelsea as well. So I think he's playing better than a lot of people give him credit for, just because some things aren't going in his favour. You've got Ismail Assar. He's a very good player. Kamada, he's an underrated player. Up front, Nketiah and Mateta, physical, offer different things. Mateta last season, end of the season, unbelievable. One of the best strikers
games at the moment. Mateta.
Yeah, they seem to be. They seem to be dropping him at the moment, but they seem to be playing Nketiah up front, which I would much rather. I'd much rather have Nketiah up front than Mateta, because Mateta's so physical. But both of them are going to give us trouble. So as much as they're on bad form and we come into favourites, if I'm looking at it tactically, the way we play, it's actually a very good setup, because 3 centre backs covering where Solanke is. You've got 2 wing backs attacking the space, can be left by our inverted wing backs. We leave like 2 centre backs alone a lot of the time around that back line, and they've got 3 very narrow forwards, and if we're going to play 2 attacking mids, right, which they're going to be very much attacking in that space, if they've got 3 very narrow forwards up front, how it's going to be very difficult for our that middle 3 of Romero, Van der Ven and Basuma to contain those 3 in the middle there. And then they've got the wing backs, attacking that space where the fullbacks should be. So the fullbacks are going to be occupied by those wing backs. And then you've got 3 versus 3 in that middle there, which is very, very difficult. So I actually think tactically, it's very, I can see where they get advantages here.
There's that, which, they're always going to be a tough team to play against, particularly, with their defensive structure. And Munoz, he's got that quality on the right-hand side. I think he's a really good player, Munoz, in terms of a wing-back. They've got rid of Elise, who was massive for them over the past couple of years. They haven't really replaced him with it's hard for a team like Crystal Palace to replace quality like Michael Elise, but they've brought in Eddie Nketiah, and they brought in someone else as well in the front line. I can't remember who else, but it's just not the same quality, isn't it? Ismail Assar. It's just not the same quality, is it?
And they're missing him, because I think the biggest person who's missing him is obviously Eze, who had his partner in crime kind of thing, and
they worked so well together.
They were brilliant together, and he just the team struggled to deal, because they're both so great in one-on-one situations. They're both such great dribblers, but when you have that synergy together, they had like a telepathic relationship, and they're both brilliant long-range shooters. They're brilliant cross deliverers, and it was almost like when they were linking up together, they were kind of unstoppable. They had unbelievable synergy. Sarr and Kamada haven't given them that, to be honest. Kamada, he's a very different type of player. He's much more of a functional midfielder. Ismail Assar is very, very different to Elise. He's much more of a straight line runner, more similar to kind of like a Dama Traore, can get to the byline, but I feel like Sarr is much more of like an individual kind of player, where he will take people on himself. He's not as much of a link-up player, whereas Elise is much more of a pass and move, give and take and link-up kind of player. As much as he was good at dribbling as well, he's much more of a link-up player than Ismail Sarr is. So I think Eze is kind of missing that relationship he had with Elise massively. And I feel like Eze maybe feels like he's got to do a lot of it by himself now. Maybe that's why you see him taking a lot more shots from outside the box and doing these things. As much as he did that quite a bit with Elise, he's doing it a lot more now, because I feel like because he doesn't have that player to link up with like he did with Lise, I feel like he feels like he has to he's become a lot more selfish, I feel, Eze, and maybe that's to the detriment of the team.
I feel, because you're looking at two teams that are coming into it in the polar opposites of form, and I feel like kind of mentality can come into a lot of this in terms of coming into it with confidence. Palace might start the game well, but I feel like if we come out playing like we have done in the Premier League over the past few weeks and get an early goal or something, I think that negativity can seep through. You know, you'll start to hear murmurs in the crowd about the manager. You'll start to see maybe Palace players playing within themselves a little bit, and I feel like confidence can play a massive part in this game.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very difficult tactical game. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than people think it will be. I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I'm actually thinking about it now, and tactically, I actually think the best move might be to play Sarr ahead of Maddison. As much as it depends, it's a difficult one because they play a back five with two kind of defensive mids, Lerma and Wharton, or Lerma and Will Hughes. So it's going to be tough to break down, and in a way, you kind of want Maddison and Decky there for that relationship they have, for as much offensive ability that they have, and that link-up play. And they might be able to exploit those pockets left behind their two defensive mids, and that could be a very good way to exploit them. But I feel like if we keep a clean sheet in this game, we might win. So I think that might be, because I do think we'll score, and I think the only way we don't win this game is if Palace can get too much encouragement going the other way. And I think if we can just shut up shop, make sure we're shutting down Eze, I think we definitely win the game. Whereas if we play Maddison, I think we probably create more chances, but we might concede more chances, and that's what I'm worried about. So I feel like you stop Eze and you kind of stop Palace, I think, and maybe the best way to do that is to play Sarr. I'm thinking about it when I think about it in that way. So maybe that's what I'll do, but it's a difficult one because, you know, do we lose too much without having Maddison and Decky together? That's the question.
Where's the confidence about you, man? 7 wins in the last 8 games.
I know, I'm confident we'll probably get the win, but this is a weird one. It's actually a weird one because I actually think Palace, they're in a false position, and I actually think they're a lot better than their position
But they're not performing that way.
I know, but you know how it is.
It's not like they're performing well and suddenly they're getting bad results.
But they did perform well on the top against the top teams.
Yeah, they performed fairly well.
They could have got a point easily in that Liverpool game. And
I still think Liverpool deserved to win that game.
Potentially, but they got an early goal and they didn't actually do much after that, Liverpool. And late in the game, Alisson got injured and they had a few moments. You know, Kelleher or whoever that keeper was, had to make a couple of saves to keep it in the lead. And as much as maybe Palace didn't create enough, like Liverpool were very quiet after they scored that goal. Mm-hmm. And like I think that's a lot to do with how Palace play a lot. And they did get a draw away at Chelsea, albeit, you know, Chelsea missed a lot of chances, but still Eze got the goal and they failed to break him down. So what my point is, why I'm a bit worried about it is they do have quite a good defensive structure. As much as they're failing to win, they're not conceding that many goals at the moment. And so they're still quite resolute. And they do have Eze. They do have people like Sarr who can attack space. They do have Mateta. And so if we go into this game thinking we're going to be playing Palace on their worst day, we could come unstuck. And that's what I'm worried about. And tactically as well, they're actually quite well set up to combat what we do. Like that's one of the better setups to combat how we play. So that's why I'm coming into this game thinking, I'm just worried that the players are going to be thinking, yeah, we're playing bottom of the, or 18th from the league, because we're not playing 18th from the league, in my opinion. We're playing a team who are much better than that, and that's how we got to look at it. Yeah,
well, like I said, I feel like mentality and kind of the way things are going for Palace could go massively in our favour as well. On the flip side, because I think if one goal goes in early, I feel Palace could kind of panic a little bit and maybe leave a few more gaps for us, and we could really go for the kill, because I think we can exploit those gaps that Crystal Palace will leave. We've got a very, very good record against Crystal Palace. Ever since we lost 3-0 there with Japhet Tanganga, I think we've won every single game against them. I think 5 games in a row. 3-0, 4-0, 1-0, 2-1, 3-1. If you can bring it on screen, that's the our Premier League last 5 with them,
No, you had the head-to-head. There you go.
So, I mean, we do have a really good record against them.
I'm trying to look when the last time we played against a back three. Well, I think it was Brentford, and to be fair, we did exploit them quite well. We won that game 3-1. Yeah, look, last season. To be fair, but last season we had our struggles in a way. I think we probably deserved both wins, but the away game, I remember first half, it wasn't a great performance, and it took an own goal to open it up a bit, and we ended up.
But we're a different team this season.
We are better. We are better this season, and they're worse. You could probably argue as well. So that maybe plays into our hands. I don't know. I've got a weird feeling about Sunday. I've just got a weird feeling. And I think as well, when I look at how they're set up and how, not just how they're tactically set up, but the kind of players they have, it's going to be very difficult.
Your weird feeling is a feeling that probably all Spurs fans have. It's just the Spurs kind of mentality, because we know Dr. Tottenham is always there around the corner, and this is like a classic Dr. Tottenham game, isn't it? You know, 7 wins in our last 8, coming into it against second bottom or bottom of the league, wherever they are, winless without the whole season. And the way Spurs are playing right now, there's a great feeling around the club. It's just these kind of games that Spurs do sometimes lose and do sometimes drop points in. However, I think with the Brighton game happening so recently, I can't believe that Ange Postecoglou is going to let that happen for a second time.
But it's different because Palace is just a lot less open. So Brighton, we had all this space to play in, and we love that. But when a team sits deep like Palace, especially with a 5 at the back, then all of a sudden, you know, it can be very, very difficult. I'm looking at their games this season. Only one game, which is the West Ham game, has there been more than a goal in it. So every game has been tight. Every game has been close. So if anything, it's definitely not going to be. I don't expect a big win here. I don't expect us to blow them away.
But also, you look at it, and the 2 teams that we've played this season that you can probably liken a bit to Palace in terms of their defensive solidity are Brentford and Everton, and we've scored 4 goals against Everton and 3 goals against Brentford. So we're clearly getting better against these kind of teams.
Yeah, well, they were at home, and this is different. This is away from home against a team who need the points desperately, like who are on a run, and as well it's dangerous because they're in a bit of a false position. It is kind of a dangerous game. As I said, I actually think in a weird way, the fact they need to, in my opinion, the fact they need to win might help us, because I don't think a draw is a great result for them. As much as probably, obviously. So in general, a draw to Spurs is probably positive, but in this kind of situation, I actually don't think it's the best result. So will they be a bit more attacking, a bit more open than they would typically be in this game? Potentially, that could play in our favour. But if they come into this game thinking a draw is a good result, I can actually see us struggling a bit, and I can actually see them playing a very smart and tactical game. We've got to be very careful here, because if we don't think we're playing the best version of Palace, they can outdo us. I really believe that.
A big situation that we need to keep an eye on. Obviously, in the press conference, Ange Postecoglou said Sonny not going to be ready for this game, which is, you know, really frustrating, because he comes back after a 2-week break, puts in an unbelievable performance against West Ham. Mikey Moore's obviously just put in the unbelievable performance last night. Odegaard came on and impressed. Werner obviously got hauled off at half-time. Which way is Ange going to go with it? Which way do you want to go with it?
I think in this specific situation, I'd probably go with Mikey Moore, just because it's a perfect excuse to put him in. I don't think you're putting too much pressure on him by putting him in. I think it's the logical thing to do. So I don't think you're like shoehorning him in here. I think he's had a great game. You know Son's injured. You've kind of got an excuse with Odegaard because he's only just come back from injury and he hasn't quite got up to speed. You know Werner's on low confidence at the moment, and you hold him off at half-time, and you know Mikey Moore, you know, played brilliantly on the left-hand side. So I think it's a great excuse to play him, and I think it won't put too much pressure on him in this game, because you kind of have to play him, because you're not left with many options. So it's not like you're putting pressure on Moore to say, you know, we're choosing you because, you know, we're putting pressure on you to perform here. It's kind of like we got no other option. So, you know, don't stress yourself out. Just try and enjoy yourself, kind of thing, and see what you can do. And maybe that pressure off him can lead to him putting a good game here. The only problem I have with it is Palace are quite a physical team, and especially their right centre-back is Lacroix, and he's big and physical, and he's like 6'2", and he's fast. And if Moore comes up against him, do I see him getting too much joy right now? I mean, I don't know. That's the question. Munoz is quite a quick player as well. I actually think he could get a bit of joy out of Munoz, to be honest, but Munoz is a wing-back, right? So is more going to be focused on tracking Munoz back and doing a bit of defensive work, the way they play. So, am I worried that Moore might not make the impact in this game? Maybe, but I'll make that excuse for a lot of the other players we have. And Werner in this kind of game, I don't know if he makes an impact because the space is going to be restricted. Moore's a bit more of a nimble dribbler. So I think it's just a good excuse to play more.
There's Odebear as well.
Yeah, we've got Odebear. We do have Odebear, and he looked sharp when he came on. So maybe we do go with him, but I don't know if he's 100% fit. He didn't want to start him on Thursday, and he said his minutes were going to be game dependent. He did have a few minutes, and he did well, but it was only 3 minutes. So, is he ready to start? I don't know. If he's not, I think Moore's the best option.
Yeah. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd probably throw Mikey Moore in. You never know what kind of condition he's in, though. He put in a lot into that game yesterday, Mikey Moore, and whether he'd be too tired or fatigued to play 2 games in a row. Because Ange Postecoglou did say as well in his press conference today that a few of the players are pretty fatigued after last night. And I imagine Mikey Moore probably would be one of those.
Yeah. So, have to wait and see what conditions he's in. Hopefully, come Sunday, maybe he'll be all right to start the game, but maybe not. And if not, you might be looking at Werner again. But
yeah, which is not anyone. No one wants to see that. But score prediction:
2-1. I actually think it's going to be a tight game. I think, if Palace weren't on the form they're on, I might actually probably go for us to drop points here because I do think it's going to be a really difficult game. I think because they're on that form, I actually think a draw's not great. So I actually think they might be a bit more open, and that might be a bit of space that we need to win this game. So I'm going for a 2-1 win, but I just think it's going to be difficult on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a bit more difficult than people envisaged, but I still think with Spurs' confidence coming into the game and Palace's confidence, I feel like if we can get an early goal, it will rock them a little bit, and you'll see negativity starting to seep through in that stadium with winless all season. So I'm banking on us to start really fast, get the early goal, and the gaps to start to appear for us. So it will be a difficult game, but I think Spurs will get over the line, and by the end of it, I feel like we'll feel it's quite convincing. We've got a very good record against Crystal Palace, 2 wins on the bounce at Selhurst Park as well. So I'm going to go for 3-1 to Spurs. That is my prediction. Let us know your predictions in the comments section below. And let's get on to the predicted lineup. Ange has been speaking in the press conference. What have we got for injury news?
So, not great news on Heung-min Son. He said he hasn't trained and he's still not 100% fit, so unlikely to play on Sunday, which is quite similar to what we heard when he was injured last time. It sounded like he was down, and all of a sudden he was out until the international break. So I really hope it's not the same here. He said it's nothing serious, but he also said that last time, and it didn't turn out to be serious, but turned out to maybe be a bit worse than he thought. So let's hope Sonny's okay, but he's probably out for Sunday. Apart from that, clean bill of health, pretty much. Obviously, Odebear came back last game, played a few minutes with Charleston started. He said Mikey Moore is ready to start, but the only issue he has is potentially physically. That's the only thing he's worried about. So if he's physically ready to start, he's ready to start. But yeah, apart from that, seems to be all right. Bergvall, he was seen coming off in the game against AZ. He looked like he was struggling with something, but Ange said it was only cramp. It wasn't anything more than that. Spence, actually, he mentioned him. He said he should be back next week, but he's not going to be fit for the weekend. So we're in a decent position, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly with the games coming thick and fast now. Before the international break, we've got so many games and big games as well. So it's great to have all those players coming back. In goal, in a 4-3-3, we are going for our new player coach, Vicario.
Yeah, assistant manager Vicario. He's selecting himself, I think. But yeah, so look, obviously Forster played in midweek. We know that Vicarios are going to play every Premier League game. Interesting that he was rested again on Thursday, but yeah, he's going to have a big part to play in this one. So big Vic in goal. Right
back, it's no surprise who we're going to pick is Pedro Porro. Got a rest completely last night, didn't come on at all, so he should be firing on the weekend.
Yeah, really good for him to get a rest. I thought Archie Gray came in and did all right, but obviously we know what Porro provides in that position. Probably up against the likes of Mitchell or Eze on that side. So it's going to be really difficult to kind of combat. It's going to be interesting to see who picks up Eze, because you can have potentially Mitchell on that left-hand side. You can have Eze picking up that little pocket of space. You're going to have Basuma thinking about the two defensive midfielders they got. You got Romero thinking about Mateta. So that's, who picks up Eze? That's the question.
Mateta might not even play, I reckon.
Or Nketiah.
Yeah.
Either way, you're going to have Romero looking at him. So it's going to be, that's something Andrew's got to figure out. I'm a bit worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way. You've got to figure out how to deal with Eze. I think if you could deal with Eze, I think we get through this game.
Okay, we'll go into it next.
Right centre-back, obviously, Kuti Romero, another one who was fully rested in midweek against AZ Alkmaar, and let's hope he's back to his best.
Yeah, and... that was really great for him to get a rest. The fact that we were able to put Dragoshin and Davis in there and keep a clean sheet is really positive. Hopefully we can do that more going forward. But yeah, Romero is going to be need to be on his A game to make sure whoever's playing up front, he's just dominating them because, whether it's Nketiah's pace or Mateta's physicality, he's got a difficult job on his hands.
Left centre-back, Mickey van der Ven. We all thought he was going to start once we saw him in the press conference pre-AZ Alkmaar, but another one who's been completely rested and do his hamstrings the world of good.
Yeah, good to keep him fresh. Obviously on that side, potentially Ismaili Assar having playing on that side, and he's got serious pace and he can run in behind on that right-hand side. So I'm a bit worried about him, and obviously they do look to passes over the top to the likes of Mateta and Nketiah, so hopefully we can deal with that. But hopefully Van der Ven is well rested after Thursday.
And then the last of the back four at left back will be Destiny Udogie, the only one out of the players that we've mentioned so far that played any part in the game yesterday.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be some sort of pre-planned sub for him, or whether maybe even he does. Or actually, I was going to say consider Spence, but you can't consider Spence because Spence is injured. So the only one you could replay is Davis. I don't think he'll play him there. So maybe Udogie will have to play
Gray.
The 90 minutes. You could play Gray there, but again, he played. So that doesn't really help with the...
Well, it helps if Udogie plays like 65, 70 minutes and Gray comes on for the final 20.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think that's one to keep an eye on because we saw against Man United... I think he played the Thursday before that Man United game against Karabag.
Yeah, he came off, didn't he? No, he came on when Udogie got sent off, when Dragoshin got sent off.
Yeah, so he came on and pretty much played 90 minutes, and then he was struggling against United, wasn't he? He had to be taken off at half time.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. And obviously the way Palace play, again, because they got wing backs and very narrow inside forwards, it's a very interesting situation. Who do the fullbacks go to? Do they go up to the wing backs, or are they going to go to the inside forwards? It's something for Ange to really ponder.
So that's the back four. Moving into the number 6 position, Bentancur got the shot in Europa League and put in a good performance, but we are siding with Yves Bissouma, another one who's been fully rested.
Yeah, so hopefully he's fresher. The likes of Lerma playing in midfield for Palace and maybe Will Hughes. I think Wharton actually might be injured looking at other things, so maybe he might not be playing. But I think Bissouma's got a big job because, as I say, they've got two very narrow inside forwards. So he's going to have to drop back and monitor that situation very carefully because, well, if he's not careful, we could very easily start to get outnumbered in that situation. So I think Bissouma's got a very important role to play here.
Moving into the attacking players, Decky going to be the first midfielder, 10 or 8, whichever way you want to call it, but did play around 15 minutes last night, which shouldn't really affect his performance coming into the weekend. Yeah,
so he's obviously our most informed player at the moment. He looked so great last week against... West Ham. He's just, so hard to stop, and I think he's going to be a very important player in this game, the way he picks up the ball in those little pockets of spaces. So, yeah, he has to start.
And then to make up that midfield 3, it's a toss-up between Sarr and Maddison. Obviously, Maddison came off at half-time in the game against West Ham last weekend. He started last night, captain's armband on, putting a really good display. But we are going to side with Maddison for that top performance yesterday. But I wouldn't be totally surprised if Sarr does start the game.
Yeah, I think I've changed my mind. I actually do think it's going to be Sarr. I think it should be Sarr because I think the way Palace is set up, we need a double pivot in this game. Otherwise, you risk those Eze and whoever they're going to play, Kamada or Sarr, just getting too much space and too much joy. And if they get the ball to him very quickly, all of a sudden we could be in trouble. And as much as what Maddison brings to us, first of all, he played 75 minutes on Thursday. So how fresh is he going to be? Is he going to be fresh enough to, be that intense that he needs to be? And as well, even if he is intense, does he have that defensive awareness to drop back next to Bissouma, to make sure that Eze is not getting on the ball enough, and as Medisar as well. I feel like we might need Sarr in this game, actually, to combat that. But on the flip side, if it is Maddison, that link up with Decky, if we do dominate possession, which I assume we will, and we're trying to break down Palace, that's only going to make it more likely that we do, and it's going to add that quality in the final third. So, yeah, I think what Maddison will bring could be important, but I actually think what Sarr would bring in this game could be more important.
Good headaches to have, eh?
Yeah, true.
On the right-hand side of the attack, Brennan Johnson, the man in form, didn't put in his best display when he came on last night. Maybe he should go back off social media. But no, I think he gave us good balance to the front line, to the forward line when he did come on. And let's hope he can get his scoring boots back on.
Yeah, and obviously they play, as I say, a wing-back system. So I think what he did brilliantly against Brentford was finding that space in between the wing-back and the wide centre-back and exploiting it. And that's what he needs to do in this game. Might be up against Mark Guehi on left centre-back and Mitchell at left wing-back. And if it turns more into a back five than a midfield five, you know, his space could start getting restricted and it could be difficult for him. So finding that space is absolutely crucial. But he's still a man in confident form, so let's see how he does.
Up front will be big Dom Solanke. Obviously, Richarlison back in the fold last weekend, which gives us in midweek yesterday, which gives us a really good option to have off the bench if we need something extra going into the final 20 minutes, half an hour. But big Dom Solanke's been brilliant all season. Have no doubt he's going to start. Yeah,
and he's got a really important role as well because they play a back three and a midfield pivot, a midfield two. It's going to be really important for him to drop into those spaces like he does. I think dropping into that space in front of the back three and behind the midfield two, dropping into that little pocket where it kind of draws out one of the centre-backs, or either it does that or they're going to be outnumbered in the middle because we've got three in the middle, they've got two. So that's really, really important role. And because he's so good at hold-up and keeping the ball, he's going to have a very important role to play, I think, in that. And we saw him how important he was against Brentford. So, yeah, Solanke's going to have his work out for him.
And then on the left-hand side, this is the question that everyone is asking at the moment. Who is going to fill in for Sonny? Well, on the left-hand side, we have gone for the main man, Mr. Mikey Moore, 17 years of age. We're predicting for him to get his first start in the Premier League for Tottenham Hotspur after the brilliant display he did have. There is a chance that it could be Odegaard. There is a chance that it could be back to Timo Werner as well. We don't know if Odegaard is back to full fitness yet. We don't know if Mikey Moore is too fatigued after last night to play the game. And we know that that Timo Werner is becoming a bit unfavoured at Tottenham. So it really is a toss-up to see who plays on this left-hand side. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't Moore, but we are siding on Moore.
Yeah, I think it's a good excuse to play him. Odegaard's not 100% fit. Werner's very low on confidence. Son is obviously out. So I think Moore is probably the best option considering how well he played on Thursday as well. Obviously, things to consider on that side. You've got Lacroix, who's a very physical, big centre-back. You know, do you really want to put Moore up against him? That is a genuine question you do need to ask. But I also think the way Palace play, you know, the Moore's attributes could be very, very beneficial here if he can get some space on that left-hand side. So I think it's a good excuse to throw Moore in there, see if he sinks or swims on this occasion, and see how he does. So I think we're sided with Moore here.
All right, so let's run through that lineup with you guys one more time. This is the predicted lineup to face Palace away on Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff at Selhurst Park. It's Vicario in goal, Porro right back, a doggy left back, Romero and Van der Ven as the centre back pairing, Bissouma, Kulusevski and Maddison. And in the front line, Johnson on the right, Mikey Moore on the left, and big Dom Solanke up top. Predictions going into it, Sim has gone for 2-1 to Spurs. I've gone for 3-1 to Spurs. But yeah, it's going to be an action-packed weekend. I'm very much looking forward to it. Me and Sim taking the long trip to South London to watch the game, and Barnaby and Marlon will be with you in the studio. So tune in for the live watch-along, 2 o'clock kickoff. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Please do go and download SofaScore. QR code is on screen. Link is in the description below. And we'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.